Welcome back. I'm so glad you're joining us today because we have a custom-tailored deep dive that is incredibly relevant.
Absolutely.
Whether you are just starting out in your career looking to pivot, or maybe you're sitting in your car right now trying to figure out how to rebuild after things didn't go exactly as planned.
Right.
Today, our mission is to extract the ultimate blueprint for bouncing back from catastrophic failure
Right.
and building a genuinely resilient business, all without succumbing to the endless information overload out there.
Which is so easy to do these days.
Oh, definitely. To do this, we're looking at chapters 3 and 4 of Nate Scott's book, Life is Rich: How to Create Lasting Wealth.
It is a phenomenal text to dig into. And what's fascinating here is the really unique blend of material we are looking at.
Okay, let's unpack this, because what grabbed me immediately about these chapters is how raw and honest the author is right out of the gate. We aren't just getting theoretical, ivory tower business advice.
Not at all. What we have in these sources is a fascinating duality. On one side, we are looking at deeply personal psychological resilience, the messy internal work of recovering from absolute failure.
Right.
And on the other side, it is paired with highly practical, boots-on-the-ground entrepreneurial tactics. It's rare to see both the mindset and the mechanics treated with such equal weight.
I was blown away by the sheer scale of the financial collapse he describes before he even gets to those mechanics. It hooks you right away because it's not just a minor setback. I mean, just how deep of a hole did he dig for himself?
It's staggering. Nate Scott writes about losing more than $250,000 on a single deal in 1 year.
Wow.
And the kicker is, all he had to show for $250,000 was a piece of paper, a judgment. That was it.
A piece of paper.
Yeah. But that was really just the first domino to fall in a massive cascade. His total debt eventually swelled to over $4 million.
$4 million. I can't even fathom the kind of pressure that puts on a person.
The pressure was constant. He describes creditors calling so frequently it was as if they had his number on speed dial. And financially, he went into absolute freefall. He watched his credit score plummet from a very healthy 720 down to below 600 in less than 45 days.
Wait, 45 days? How does a life unravel that quickly?
When things go bad at that scale, the momentum is brutal, and the collateral damage was severe. He found himself unemployed or underemployed for over 3 years at one stretch.
That's a long time to be in the wilderness.
It is. He was standing on the absolute verge of filing for bankruptcy. And to compound the financial stress, his marriage was ending.
Just a total collapse.
Exactly. He writes about the sheer cognitive dissonance of it all. He was supposed to be this smart, highly educated, successful businessman who had achieved millionaire status, and suddenly he was completely broke, both financially and personally.
That brings up a huge question, though. How does someone that smart let it get that bad?
Well, this raises an important question about the psychology of success. When you look at why this happened, Scott admits it was a textbook example of a very common trap. He had succumbed to the erroneous thought that his self-worth was dictated entirely by his net worth.
Oh, wow. So the money wasn't just money, it was his identity.
Exactly. He had become utterly obsessed with making money and doing deals. When you equate your net worth with your self-worth, a financial collapse isn't just a loss of capital.
Right.
It's the erasure of who you are. That is why the embarrassment and the profound feeling of being an utter failure hit him with such devastating force.
And that leads to this incredible turning point.
Yeah.
He uses a sports analogy that I think anyone can relate to, even if they aren't carrying $4 million in debt.
Mm-hmm.
He realized he was, in his words, losing in the second quarter of life and nearing halftime.
It's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
He writes that the question during this halftime wasn't an anxious, panic-stricken, am I going to win the game?
Which is what most of us would be asking.
Right. But the only question that mattered to him was, how am I going to play the second half? It moves the focus away from the insurmountable scoreboard and places it entirely on the immediate strategy for the next play.
I love that. So his strategy for the second half starts with a 7-day retreat. He recognized he needed to fundamentally rebuild his life and start again.
He had to step away.
Yeah, he completely immersed himself, getting his mind and body right through intense Bible reading, daily workouts, and meditation. But I have a natural skepticism here. I mean, can you really fix a $4 million disaster just by meditating and working out for a week?
No, of course not. A week of reflection doesn't pay off the debt, but it stops the internal bleeding. It resets the operating system.
Okay, that makes sense.
And alongside the spiritual and physical disciplines, he loaded up on practical frameworks. During that retreat, he read 3 very specific books that became his foundation for the rebuild.
I remember this part.
He read Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, T. Harv Eker's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Black Book of Connections.
That is a very deliberate reading list. You've got Covey for personal character and habits, eager to completely rewire his toxic relationship with money, and Gitomer for the practical mechanics of networking and sales.
Precisely. It highlights that duality we talked about earlier. He's repairing the inner self while simultaneously gathering actionable business principles.
Which brings us perfectly into one of the most profound mindset shifts in the source material. It's this concept of be, do, have. Because most of us operate in the exact opposite direction.
We absolutely do. Society trains us to operate on a do, have, be mentality.
Like, if I just do the grinding corporate job, I will have the huge salary and the nice car, and then I will finally be considered successful and worthy of respect.
That is the exact trap. People think they need to do things to acquire things in order to magically transform into someone of value. Scott argues that this cycle of turbulence is entirely backward. We are human beings, not human doings.
Human beings, not human doings. It sounds so simple, but it completely upends how we measure our days.
Inner fulfillment has to come first. You have to be first. When you understand who you are internally, your entire life's purpose becomes about self-fulfillment. You remain steady, regardless of whether the stock market crashes or a deal falls through.
Because if you don't anchor yourself internally, you are constantly at the mercy of external validation.
Yes.
The source explicitly lists these traps we all fall into. It's the massive home, the imported foreign car, the jewelry from Tiffany's, the exclusive country club membership. We use these things as shorthand to tell the world we made it.
We do.
But Scott points out the terrifying vulnerability there. If those external things define your success, then the moment those things disappear, the moment the bank takes the house or the car society can just as easily slap the label of failure on you.
And that vulnerability is exactly what Scott was insulating himself against during his rebuild. He needed an anchor that wasn't tied to a real estate deal. Interestingly, he found that anchor by looking way back to his time in the military.
Oh, this part gave me actual chills.
Yeah.
At 19 years old, he was walking the perimeter in the desert during Desert Storm.
Yeah.
A literal, terrifying life and death situation.
Yeah.
And out there in the sand, he prayed that if he survived, if he made it back home, he would never waste a single day of his life.
That experience provides a permanent, unshakable baseline for gratitude. He references Psalm 121, "From whence cometh my help," as a daily reminder to stay grounded.
Just giving that perspective.
Exactly. He talks about how incredibly easy it is for people to get amnesia when they achieve a little bit of success, to become haughty, arrogant, and forget where they came from or what has been done for them. By mentally tying his current daily life back to that terrified 19-year-old walking the perimeter, he ensures his foundation is an inside-out job.
Okay, so once the internal game is won and that foundation is rock solid, he still has to face the external market. I want to look at this turning point in 2010.
This is a great moment.
Yeah, Scott had always been interested in teaching, but didn't think it would bring the financial rewards he wanted.
Yeah.
But after a speaking engagement, about 25 people literally followed him out of the room into the hallway.
They just wouldn't let him leave.
They were asking for more seminars, more speaking engagements. They wanted to know what else he had to offer.
That hallway moment is the spark of genuine entrepreneurship. It's not a business plan drawn up in a vacuum. It is the market actively demanding a product.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because in response to that demand, Scott lays out this deceptively simple 3-step formula. He says, whether you want to build a billion-dollar business or just have a truly great personal relationship, you only need to do 3 things.
Let's hear him.
Number 1, find out what they want. Number 2, go and get it. Number 3, give it to them.
It's so straightforward.
Now, hold on a second. Find out what they want and give it to them. That sounds like advice you'd get from a fortune cookie. Is he oversimplifying this, or is there a catch?
It does sound suspiciously simple, but if you strip down any successful enterprise from Amazon to a local bakery that is the inescapable core loop, what elevates Scott's approach, however, the catch, if you will, is his underlying value proposition.
Okay.
His core philosophy is to always give more value than the client actually invests.
So over-delivering by default.
Exactly. Whether he is giving his time, his talent, or his treasure, the goal is always to leave the person significantly better off than when they arrived. If someone pays you $100, you give them $150 worth of value.
Wow.
That is how you turn a simple three-step transaction into a fiercely loyal customer base and ultimately lasting wealth.
So once he figured out how to provide overwhelming value, he had to step back out into the broader world. And the modern economy he describes stepping into is pretty unforgiving.
Very unforgiving.
The focus shifts to the reality of work today, framed by a verse from Exodus about being filled with skill to do all kinds of work. And the reality check here is stark. Today, there is no such thing as a safe company, a secure job, or an established market share.
The illusion of corporate safety has completely evaporated. We've seen entire industries upended overnight, but as Scott points out, the internet and the global economy have also completely leveled the playing field for the individual.
It's a landscape of total extremes. On one hand, he notes that Forbes magazine counted 1,426 billionaires, which was a huge jump from the 1,226 counted just the previous year. The ceiling for opportunity has never been higher.
True.
But on the flip side, the floor is treacherous. It's estimated that about 75% of new businesses fail within their first couple of years.
Which is why understanding the shifting landscape is so critical to survival. The text draws a brilliant contrast between the old titans of industry and the new reality. Think about the massive foundational companies of the past, the expansive railways, Bethlehem Steel, the traditional auto industry.
Right, the giants.
These were giants that seemed invincible, yet they faltered, shrank, or collapsed. Meanwhile, you have Microsoft, which literally started in a garage and grew into a global behemoth.
He also mentions how mega retailers like Walmart and Home Depot wiped out countless small legacy retail stores because they offered more choices at cheaper prices. The lesson Scott pulls from this disruption is that you have to go where the puck is going, not where it is right now. You can't build a business for yesterday's market.
And this brings up a vital point about the traits required to actually be a successful entrepreneur in this environment. People often assume you need to be a traditional intellectual genius, someone with a master's degree in finance.
Yeah, that's the stereotype.
But Scott explicitly argues that having brains in business has almost nothing to do with how well you did in school or the diplomas hanging on your wall.
Thank goodness for that. Because I think a lot of people count themselves out before they even try.
It really comes down to street smarts, common sense, and one very specific skill, the ability to see opportunities where others completely miss them.
Okay, give me an example of that.
He uses a perfect historical example. Think about the people who had the entrepreneurial vision to recognize the profound value of a McDonald's franchise back in the 1960s. A far larger group of highly educated people were presented with the exact same opportunity, looked at a hamburger stand, and just passed it by. They couldn't spot the value.
Spotting the value is step one, but then how do you actually start without risking financial ruin, especially if you have a family to feed? If you were listening to this on your commute right now, dreading your day job but terrified to quit and lose your safety net, this next strategy is exactly what you need to hear. They discuss the moonlighter's advantage starting your business while keeping your day job.
It is a highly strategic, calculated approach. The advantages of moonlighting often heavily outweigh the risks of taking a blind leap. By moonlighting, you avoid burning your bridges. You retain your current salary, your retirement contributions, your health benefits, and your paid vacations while you actively test your business concept in the real world.
It takes the desperation out of the equation,
Precisely.
but he is very clear that this requires absolute ironclad boundaries. You have to compartmentalize your life completely. You can never, under any circumstances, work on your side hustle while you are sitting at the desk of your day job. It's unfair to the employer paying your salary, and it jeopardizes your primary income stream.
Integrity has to be maintained at all costs. To manage this, he suggests utilizing family members to help run the operations or handle daytime emergencies while you are at your primary job.
That's smart.
It creates a built-in organizational structure and has the added benefit of teaching your kids the practical realities of running a business.
There is a major pitfall to watch out for, though. Trying to build a business from 6 p.m. to midnight after working a full day can lead to severe mental and physical exhaustion. Trying to burn the candle at both ends is a very real danger for the moonlight entrepreneur, and if you crash, both the job and the business go down with you.
It is a very delicate balancing act, but regardless of whether you start full-time or part-time in the evenings, the most critical differentiator of an entrepreneur is the ability to consistently generate ideas and actually follow through on them.
Let's dive into that idea generation, because Scott gives a fantastic, actionable framework for brainstorming daily. He says you don't need a stroke of genius. Just look around you at existing products or methods and ask highly specific questions.
The questions are great.
Yeah. Can this item be smaller? Can it be larger? Could the color be changed? Can the process be simplified? Can this service be franchised? Is it currently priced too high for the average consumer? Can the shape be altered?
The mechanism here is brilliant because it forces your brain to constantly evaluate alternatives rather than accepting the world as it currently is.
And the golden rule he mentions for this brainstorming phase is crucial. Just write the ideas down without judging them. Don't sit there and decide if an idea is good, bad, or profitable yet. If you are critical of your thoughts before they even hit the paper,
Yeah.
you will completely paralyze the flow of ideas.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, once you have that massive flow of ideas, you eventually have to select one and build a business plan around it. And this is exactly where so many potential entrepreneurs freeze up. They get overwhelmed by the paperwork.
Totally.
But Scott advocates for what we might call the anti-overwhelm business plan.
Yes. I don't know about you, but whenever I see a 50-page, 5-year business plan, I assume it's mostly fiction anyway. Who knows what the market is doing in 5 years?
Nobody does.
Scott agrees. He says there's nothing magical about a business plan. It can literally be just a few pages long. The key is placing reasonable limits on your future projections. Keep your long-term predictions under 1 year because, frankly, long-term planning often becomes meaningless the minute reality in the market's dead end.
Furthermore, you must offset your natural entrepreneurial optimism with extreme conservatism. Entrepreneurs are naturally hopeful, but when you are predicting your capital requirements, your production timelines, your sales, and your profits, be conservative.
Plan for the worst.
Expect things to cost more and take longer. Very few business plans correctly anticipate just how much time and money will actually be required to get off the ground.
To make it even easier to execute, he breaks down a simple 5-step process for a worthwhile plan that won't take you 6 months to write.
It's very practical.
First, write out your basic business concept clearly. Second, gather all the objective data you can on its feasibility. Third, focus and refine your concept based on what that data tells you. Fourth, outline the specifics using a what, where, when, why, and how approach. And fifth, put it in a compelling form so it can be a useful tool when you need to deal with partners or lenders.
It completely demystifies the entire planning process. And notice how that 5-step plan leads right into the most common hurdle that stops people in their tracks: financing.
People always use a lack of money as an excuse. They think they need hundreds of thousands of dollars in venture capital or a massive bank loan just to start. Scott totally debunks this myth. You don't need massive capital. You just need enough seed money of your own, plus sufficient cash to maintain a positive cash flow for at least that critical first year.
And he provides very actionable grassroots methods for finding that initial seed money without ever having to walk into a bank and beg a loan officer.
Start at home. Look at your personal savings. Take a brutal inventory of items you don't actually need and get rid of them. Have a massive garage sale. Sell that extra car sitting in the driveway. Sell things on eBay. Strip down your life to fund your dream.
It's about leveraging the assets you already possess rather than taking on external debt immediately.
And then turn to your network. Go to friends and family who have faith in your work ethic and offer them a profit-sharing arrangement. I love this specific framing he uses. Go to individuals in your local community who believe in you, not traditional lenders who just believe in your bank statements.
But if you do eventually have to look at formal credit to scale, it's crucial to deeply understand the tools at your disposal so you don't repeat the $4 million mistake.
Right. Nobody wants to do that again.
Exactly. Scott clarifies the critical difference between unsecured and secured loans. Unsecured loans, like your standard credit cards, have no collateral backing them. They are incredibly easy to get and even easier to max out dangerously, often carrying exorbitant interest rates. Secured loans, on the other hand, are backed by tangible assets, things like the equity in your home, your physical business inventory, or your equipment.
And there is a prime, highly specific tip he offers about managing that equipment so you don't drain your cash. He says, for example, it is absolutely not necessary to pay all cash for a delivery truck when you can easily rent or lease one. Prioritize your very limited cash for things that absolutely require it to survive, like payroll or raw inventory, and look for clever leasing alternatives for the big-ticket items.
That right there is the pure essence of bootstrapping. You are controlling your downside risk by placing a smart, calculated limit on how much of your own vital capital is tied up in depreciating assets.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at this entire blueprint, from the devastating $4 million collapse to the step-by-step rebuild and the tactical business advice, we see a very clear, repeatable path.
We really do.
Bouncing back requires a fundamental internal shift first. You have to transition from being a human doing who is constantly chasing external validation and luxury labels to a human being grounded in internal purpose and gratitude.
That is the foundation.
Once that is set, you prioritize your passion, execute a highly conservative short-term business plan, and bootstrap creatively by leveraging the ideas and resources right in your own garage or community.
And if there is one overarching thesis to take away from Nate Scott's incredible experience, it is this. Success isn't about how perfectly you start out or having the most flawless, well-funded 50-page business plan. What really matters is having the courage to simply begin. It's about taking that very first step, leveraging the ideas, the tools, and the people right in front of you, and having the resilience to adjust as you go.
It is an incredibly empowering message, especially for anyone feeling stuck right now. And it leaves me with a final thought that I want to pass on to you, the listener, to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. If our actual value as people is entirely independent of our external output, if the true foundation of lasting success is learning to simply be first and different, how might the businesses we build tomorrow look entirely different if we focused on solving problems from a place of quiet inner fulfillment rather than a frantic, exhausting search for the world's validation?
That is the real challenge for all of us.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.